and welcome to Technically Edinburgh, the podcast for and about technicians at the University of Edinburgh. My name is Charlie Corcoran. This episode is a recording of our festive event, Tech the Halls. We held Tech the Halls a couple of weeks ago and invited all technical staff from the Edinburgh Technical Collaboration. We had 5 guest speakers who gave flash talks at the event, and they were incredible and agreed I could record them and use the recordings for this episode. A couple of things to note: the quality of the recordings are variable. We've done our best to edit them, so please give us a benefit of the doubt with some of these, and hopefully they're legible and you can hear them. Also, a few of the speakers used slides, so occasionally you will hear them refer to things they had on the screen. Obviously, we don't have a screen. But if there's anything that interests you in the talks, more than happy to get in touch with the speakers and see if they can share their slides. So just reach out and we can make that happen. So let's introduce our first guest, Anna Raper, who has come to tell us about her role as the Bioimaging and Flow Cytometry Facility Manager at the University of Edinburgh.
So I haven't practiced this, so please forgive me. Okay, so I thought I'd come today and just give you a quick talk about my life as a bioimaging flow cytometry facility manager. And basically, how did I get here? So I had my son when I was 19, and then I thought I'm not ready to go to university just yet. So I did an HNC in biomedical sciences, and then an undergrad in molecular genetics. And then took a year as a research assistant at the University of Dundee, and then did my PhD at Dundee. I was the first single parent to do a PhD at the university, which is shocking. I'm not that old. And then I took a year out, so family came first, and I actually worked as a builder, so I could afford to live in Edinburgh. And then joined Roslin and the University of Edinburgh as a postdoc, and I managed the flow cytometry facility at the Roslin Institute. And that took 10 years. My career kind of stagnated at that point, as in I went through 3 rounds of trying to get through promotions and getting knocked back, going through the technical route, got knocked back, and academic route, got knocked back. So I kind of given up. I'd kind of lost motivation. So I kind of took a pause, and life throws you opportunities. So timing is everything. I probably overthought this bit horrendously, and I spent a lot of time agonizing because there was 2 jobs that came up that I could choose from or apply to. One was down the academic track, 100%, and the other one, 100% technical, so managing the facility at Roslin. And I had to think about what are my transferable skills and what do I actually like and hate doing. And the decision that I made it was quite a simple answer looking back, is I hate writing. So I decided academic is not for me, but I love problem solving and tinkering and just applying my brain that way. So yeah, this is a mouse brain, by the way, one of the images. I'll talk to you about it in a minute. So I went down the academic track, and not the academic, technical track. So what does being a manager of a flow cytometry facility entail? So facility management, we've got crazy high-end equipment, so making sure it's maintained well and looked after. So QCs, health and safety, and then also when we get finance as well, a huge part, especially right now, not just people and money, which is the agony of everybody's life, but with university looking at finance, we have to run it like a business, so make sure that we're running net neutral or bringing in a profit. And also when we get new equipment, so up there is Scotland's first spectral cell sorter, so knowing how to use that, so making sure the team have got all the knowledge and how to use it appropriately. So a cell sorter, basically you can put a single cell into a well. So the top plate up there, you can put a single cell into each one of those wells in 17 seconds. So 384 cells into a well. And the project here is of a chick that was developed at Roslin, and it's about tissue fusion. So if you think about cleft palates, they're actually looking at the fusion of the iris, and they've got GFP reporter there. And putting it on Bigfoot, we can look at the full emission spectra, and we can actually see the GFP cells, which you wouldn't normally be able to see on a traditional flow cytometer. What else do? We do teaching, so making sure that all our staff and students are trained, but we also do a lot of public engagement. So one of our students, so school students from the Science Insight programme, took that picture. And we also do a lot of engagement with the wider community across Scotland. So that's a picture of the last meeting that we hosted in Aberdeen for the Scottish Microscopy Society. And then blue petering, that's my favourite part. So in veterinary research, we have to come up with lots of ways of doing things that, because it's not been done before, and finding sort of novel ways of solving problems. A lot of the time is figuring out how to glue things to things or how you're going to mount your samples. So we have a clear mouse brain up there, and finding the right super glue is surprisingly tricky. So it will stick to that little metal appendage and dangle it in front of the microscope. And then our newest toy that we've got is the micro CT scanner. So finding out how you put a zebrafish into a tube and shove it inside the sample scanner, or a chicken skull. It looks pretty grim, but it was from an abattoir, and they're looking at beak damage in chicken, beak damage from feeding, but also damage that the beak causes to other cage mates. So we're trying to genetically select for less aggressive chickens, and beautiful images by our postdocs and students. And then I thought I'd escaped it, but actually going down the technical track, you still have to do a lot of writing. So funding applications for equipment and contributing to papers, doing things like this, talking, which is the thing I hate most, but I still force myself to do it, presentations. And it's good because they're important transferable skills, which is, again, taking us back to the beginning, which keeps your career progressing. So, and it's a big team of different people, so not just my little core team. There's four of us in total that do an amazing job, and lots of different skills among them. But if you think about the facility doesn't work on its own. We work with finance, we work with procurement, health and safety, public engagement, comms. I mean, the list is forever. So it's like this huge network of different people that make us be able to do our daily jobs. And then the picture up there is just one of our first images on the light sheet, which is a chicken limb and the yellow's neuronal fibers. But if you have any questions, please go ahead.
Next up is David Hills, the Teaching Technical Support Manager in the School of Biological Sciences at the University of Edinburgh. Recording in this section is not so good. Apologies, it's very quiet and there's quite a lot of background noise. It's entirely my fault. I forgot to turn off the Christmas music. Let's just say it's some added festiveness.
So my job title is Teaching Technical Support Manager for the School of Biological Sciences Teaching Organisation's technical team. We do all of the undergrad and postgrad laboratory teaching in the school. So my pathway started out in research. So I started on my PhD in Portsmouth Polytechnic back in 1988. The top right-hand thing is a synthetic gene. That was the first thing I ever made. I made a recombinant virus with that. I ended up moving from Portsmouth to London for a few years at the Imperial Cancer Research Fund. Moved to London in 1996 to Edinburgh, spending about 7 years up at Roslin. Up there was Dolly was born, saw all that story. Did a lot of work on bovine genetics. Then moved from Roslin about 2002 into the university. I did about 12 years work in Alexander Vinicius group. I spent a lot of time working on development of hematopoiesis. We were making transgenic mouse models to look at factors that would involve the emergence of the first blood stem cell in the embryo. So I did a huge amount of manual work. We used to get through a ridiculous number of mice every year, and I was the senior postdoc in this group with about 18 researchers. And that all came to an end in about 2015. I was made redundant. That was the end of me for a year. I spent some time looking for another job, and the job at BTO came up. So rather than keep going on short-term contracts here, there, and everywhere, I got this job managing the 4 teaching labs across a team of about 12 people. The numbers change over time. So we've got a lab in the Ashworth, 2 labs in the Ashworth building that's supervised by Haley Patterson. Takes 116 and 64 students. Another lab in JCLB takes 104 students. There are 2 labs in the other laboratory, Misha, Richard and Julia, all here at Mac. They manage those, 72 and 40 students. And we have a small lab that's totally unfit for teaching PGT work on the Peter building. So hopefully that will be replaced when a new Darwin building goes up at some point with a much bigger lab. So it's an interesting job having 12 staff. There's a lot of plates to juggle, and there's a lot of courses to cater for. And the other thing I have is 3 large computer labs, 30, 40, and 66 PCs. I'm responsible for maintaining, making sure they don't get nicked. So I'll show you that already. So you see how if you're not being involved in teaching, you don't really know how it all works until you start. I didn't have a clue inside this job. So obviously you've got the 2 semesters, then you have all these courses that are just plugged in both those semesters, so it absorbs a lot of your time. There's a huge amount of preparation that goes into each of these courses. Most of the stuff has to be prepared over the summer. Some of it is more perishable and needs to be prepared a few weeks or a day before you go on the day. But the size of the courses can be sort of mind-boggling. So in our first year intake, we have about 230 students, so we can't get 230 students in one space. So we need to break that down into like 3 groups of 80. We'll write it 3 times. Some of the second year courses have like up to 400 students on them. So we just run the same practical 4 or 5 times. So it really does fill up the timetable. So as the students move through their years, they specialise, and the courses get more specialised, they get smaller in size. Ultimately, they go on and do 1 to 12 honours projects. So my job is to make sure the staff and all the resources are in place to support all of these courses. We have 58 budgets to manage, people and money. Stuff just ends up in all the wrong place, and finance, business partners want us all to be all to the right place every month, correct everything. One thing I find is that all the demonstrators who work in the biology teaching organisation, when they go back into their research labs to go on conferences, they keep my budget codes and all of their expenses come through into my account, which spend quite a lot of time moving the money out of their accounts back into ours, which is quite interesting. We also support postgrad students, about 150 of those. Again, these are much smaller courses. Maximum this year is 29 students. They're more demanding, they're more like a research-based project. We let the practicals fail. These guys have to work through the problems. If it doesn't work, we will repeat things for them, but we do let them have a higher failure rate. That's the big difference between postgraduate and undergraduate teaching. So, what we can't do is we can't pick and choose where we work. We get given 22 weeks a year timetable. So each lab has a prescribed set of practicals, but basically you have to deliver on the day. You just can't put anything off, you can't postpone. So everything has to be in place and ready to go. Which is going to be interesting. So certainly at the moment, with the staff pushed to sale, you can't really afford to be ill. It's quite difficult to cover things. There's a lot of stuff to move around between labs. We have hundreds of microscopes. Sometimes they have to be in one building, and some of them have to move across to a different building. So it's a massive logistical effort. We use about 80,000 petri a year, and storage of all the gear we've got is a massive problem. We just run out of cold room space, freezer space. Storage everywhere is really difficult. And then in the summer, teaching just continues with other things that happen. So we have field trips organised. I have to organise a field trip to Millport on Cumberland Island in April, and another one to Spain in August, which I go on to in a sort of health and safety capacity. So getting like 40 students out of Spain is not much fun. We have some schools in the lab, there are various outreach activities. It basically just never stops. And then of course, there's always the repairing of the equipment and patch testing each year. So that's where we are. If you've got any questions, please ask.
Next up is Manos Lymouris, a sports and exercise science laboratory technician at Heriot-Watt University.
Hello. Actually, my name is Emmanuel, but my mum only calls me that when I'm in trouble. As Charlie said, I'm a Heriot-Watt technician in the sports science department. So our job essentially is to make people suffer on a treadmill or a bicycle, whatever you enjoy the most. As a person before me said, we pretty much have the same job. It's just, for the sports science department, it varies slightly. We're hands-on in terms of teaching at Heriot-Watt because we're only a small team. We've only started 4 years ago. This is the first time we have a 4-year cohort. So we're all hands-on, a team of 3 technicians and a team of 7 academics. So we all need to get our hands dirty. I forgot what I wanted to say actually. So our job pretty much involves QCs, calibrating equipment, making sure everything's working ready. When someone decides to go on a treadmill at about 20 kilometers an hour, we have to be there, making sure they don't fly off it. And the reason I decided to do this job, funnily enough, I'm also a qualified PE teacher, but I didn't really enjoy it. So I thought I'll go and work with kids slightly older than that. So I did my bachelor degree in Greece, qualified as a sports scientist and PE teacher. I moved within the day after I graduated from uni to Portsmouth, where I did my master's degree and worked as a technician there, and then moved to Edinburgh. One small fun fact, when I moved from Portsmouth, I contacted all the universities in Edinburgh asking for a job, either free or paid. Edinburgh Uni came back and said, yeah, you can work for free for us. So I did for a few months, then COVID hit and I stopped. So I started working at a school and then started working at UWS, University of West of Scotland, before I got my job at Heriot-Watt University. As I have a master's degree in sports performance, I'm looking to do a PhD, hopefully in the future. So I don't think this is a route all technicians take. Certainly not at Heriot-Watt. So I'm trying to pave the way pretty much for everyone. And I think for me, one of the most important roles I have at Heriot-Watt is also I'm in the EDI committee. So we're trying to make the university a bit more inclusive for everyone. That's including staff and students. We have an initiative of starting walks. We have a walk each month, and that is based on what the theme of the month is as well. So, for example, November was men's health. So we started the walk, and everyone could get involved, whether you were a female or a male, and talk about male health. We don't have one for December, I think, but hopefully it will come soon. Yeah, that's me. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Next, we're going to hear from Nat Gunner. Nat is an AV digitization technician in the Digital Library at the University of Edinburgh.
Right. Hello, I'm Nat. I am a fresh new employee of the University of Edinburgh. I've only been here about a month, but I work as an audiovisual digitization technician. So it's a little bit different from the other ones we've seen today. And my role is to digitize audiovisual material that are kept in the archives and heritage collections at the university. So it's kind of an interesting I kind of view it as like a multidisciplinary role because I came into it with an archival education, which was also where I started out in digitization, but then it also has elements of audio and video engineering, digital preservation, cataloging, just a lot of different parts to it. So kind of on a day-to-day basis, I am cutting audio files and preparing material for people who want to use it either for research, next of kin, publication, however it goes. These things just get sent to me, and then I send them files that have been digitized, or I digitize the actual material, which could be reel-to-reel tapes, audio cassettes, VHS tapes, mini discs, DATs. I've not been here very long, so I haven't done much of that just yet, but I've done it in previous positions. So really anything that you think is in your attic, your parents' attic, your grandparents' attic, some of that could be what I do. And then also looking after the equipment. One of the big challenges in doing AV digitization is that it's all really old technology or growing to be old and obsolete technology. And so actually having the resources to do it is kind of diminishing as years go on. So that's one thing, taking care of all of the kit, assessing the condition of the material. There's a lot of different things that can happen to AV material in the time between it being made and then being digitized. A lot of chemical breakdowns in tape binders or in the plastic makeup of a disc, for example, that it needs to be dealt with before you digitize it because it can harm the tape or it can harm the equipment used to digitize it. So that's sort of just a little bit about what I do. I feel like technicians and kind of the glam side of things don't sort of, maybe not as well known, but it's a really exciting job because you get to hear a lot of stories in the material, you get to connect people with a lot of stories, and it's a nice mix of sitting at a computer and not sitting at a computer. So, yeah.
Our final Tech the Halls guest is Mike Capeness. Mike's a lab manager in the School of Biology at the University of Edinburgh. And I think Mike's talk is about his year in numbers. Mike has spoken on the podcast before all about his role. So do go back and listen to that if you would like a little bit more context.
Thank you very much. So I am Dr. Michael Capeness. I'm from the School of Biological Sciences over at the King's Building, and I'm the lab manager for Louise Horsfall's group, Professor Louise Horsfall. I thought I'd do something, or let's think about my position a bit differently. So I'm going to present my year in numbers. A couple of technician conferences ago, I gave the kind of how I got here and everything like that. So I thought this would make a nice change. Plus, I was already coming up with some of these things for a lab quiz that we were doing as well as like tiebreaker rounds. So I thought I'd extend it and look into kind of my year, take it or leave it, as kind of in terms of numbers. It was very hard not to do this to the tune of 12 days of Christmas, but I tried my best and it doesn't kind of sync up at any point. But some of them do scan particularly well, which I'm going to try to avoid. So my lab's made of 13 people, and over the course of this year, 3 people have left, 2 people have come in, so we used to be 14, but we're 1 short. 7 PhD students, 4 postdocs, a PI, 1 lab manager, and a partridge in a pear tree. As well as that, we normally have a kind of remit of BSc students, so undergrads that have been diligently taught by David with very impressive skills. A couple of master students every now and again, which have skills plus or minus. And this year we've also had like a work experience student, so someone who's 16, a kind of child, the son of one of our collaborators who sent him up here so they could have a holiday. So I got to look after them, which is nice. So I'm in charge of the supervision for all of these people. As well, if not from the onset, but throughout their time in our lab as well. And I'm forever being asked questions from everyone, including the PI and sometimes myself. I have to ask myself some questions. On the right is what we do as a lab. I'm not going to go through that. If you're interested, please seek us out or ask me questions. Metals in, bacteria, nanoparticles. That's pretty much the end of it. So I am funded externally by research grants. I currently, this year, have worked on 3 different projects. A lot of them very similar. As I mentioned, metal plus bacteria equal something is generally how it rolls. I work on 8 different organisms of a day, kind of 5 bacteria, 3 fungi. Some of them are aerobic, some of them are anaerobic. The anaerobic ones are particularly challenging. I generally go about making plasmids for a living and trying to test what they kind of do and what effect it has on the cells. So I've made 15 plasmids. Our lab kind of straddles the boundary between biology, chemistry, and physics. So I actually spend a lot of time in chemistry. So 125 hours at about £50 an hour using one of the machines, in this case the ICP OES. So I actually spend, a good couple of solid weeks in chemistry, analyzing some of the outputs from our lovely cells, as well as that we do a lot of microscopy. So I spend either times in plant sciences using the TM facility there, or over in the School of Physics using their kind of more high-end electron microscope. So the work I've amassed over this last year or so, I've contributed to 4 different grant applications. One of them was funded. 3 of them were not funded. I'm technically waiting for one of them. But that's how that goes. Not a bad hit rate, generally. So I can be doing things like writing bits of that. I'm very good at making Gantt charts, apparently, so that seems to be a job that falls to me. So if anyone needs a Gantt chart making, I've got a window. I presented at 3 lab meetings to discuss the research I've been kind of carrying out in the lab, and also kind of for helping with troubleshooting from my peers. I take the minutes of our lab meetings. I document everything that's said at our lab meetings, so people can be held to account when it comes to kind of them saying they were going to do something when they claim they never did. Like, well, it's in the meeting, so yes, you did. I've also contributed to 2 publications with my fellow colleagues, both from PhD students, both kind of normal scientific review and also the public science article as well, which has been interesting. It's a different style of writing from what I'm normally used to. So that's good. I also got the opportunity to present at an international conference, which is great. That's because no one else wanted to go, and I said yes. I hate speaking in front of people, let alone at an international conference with 200 people, but I got a free trip, so all good. So that's the research, that's what I do day to day, but on top of that, I have other duties as well, including things like purchasing, maintenance, safety. So I've submitted loads of requisitions this last year. I spent 45 grand on consumables alone, including some of the numbers you can see there for kind of tubes. I'm not trying to brag. I imagine people from teaching have this beat hands down. But it's nice to know how many kind of yellow tips I use every year and how many 15mm tubes we get through. Because we're also interested in things like sustainability and recycling these things. So it's always nice to have a number. How many go in, how many come out? I'm forever changing gas cylinders, particularly at about 10 to 5 on a day. It's when I mostly change gas cylinders because someone grabs me before I leave the door and says, oh, can we change the gas cylinder, please? So I've changed 35 of those of a year. I've defrosted 6 freezers. I don't wish to brag, but pretty good. And I've written kind of 650 odd COSH forms, or I've updated them. And this is in tandem with some of the sustainability thing that's happening, which I'll talk about just in a sec. So that's kind of the kind of admin side of it, minus the kind of moving cylinder stuff. I've also responded to 2 first aid incidences because I'm a health and safety representative or kind of person to report to. They've not been from my lab. Obviously, I look after my lab, and they know better to hurt themselves at work because it just means more paperwork. I'd mentioned sustainability for pretty much everyone in the college. Sustainability has been the bugbear this year, I think, because everyone's been trying to work towards this mythical silver accreditation, and I've been a big driver of that for my building. Even though I'm not the lab's building manager, I kind of took it upon myself to help people through the kind of sustainability awards and things like that. And so I've given once a month for the last 8 months a sustainability presentation to see how people are going and holding their hand all the way through it. As well as that, I've fulfilled all 34 sustainability criteria for the Silver Award for my own lab, as well as auditing 3 different buildings in the school or college. And we eventually got 1 silver status for my building, as well as the entire school and college by this point, maybe, have passed. But that's been one of the biggest efforts I think all of us have kind of undertaken this year. And I've tried to help. I believe I've helped. What's not here is the number of emails I've received, which is a lot, despite unsubscribing to a lot of things and blocking a lot of stuff. I seem to still get a lot of stuff. I also send out a fair chunk. I drink a lot of coffee. Coffee fuels everything I've just told you. I've also helped in things like proofreading of theses and like other articles and stuff like that. I've been very lucky to be awarded 3 times for kind of services to the building, to the kind of school, to the college over the last year as well. I've hosted 2 seminars to kind of replace my boss when she's not around or she's been ill. So I've taken that, well, I say I've taken that, I'm kind of forced into that to make sure everything goes swimmingly with that. I'm also responsible for things like outreach and talking to kind of kids about science and getting them to smell weird things in jars to see what they can work out. I've also been put in charge of the website recently, so I've had to learn how to use EdWeb 2.0. So I've been updating that. I've recorded 1 podcast, re-recorded 1 podcast. Yeah, but one of them was last year. So I also arranged the Institute barbecue this year because that was a complete nightmare trying to get that through people and money, which has been great. So that's been my year. And the only other thing that I've done this year is make 1 key lime pie, which everyone should be eating because I do not want to take it home. So please help yourself. And that's my year in numbers. Thank you very much.
Key lime pie was pretty amazing. And that's the end of our episode. Thank you so much for listening. And of course, thank you to our speakers for not only recording for this podcast episode, but for getting up and speaking in front of everyone at the Tech the Halls event. Always love to hear about all the different things that our technical staff get up to. So all that's left really to say is Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Have an amazing break, and we'll see you in January with some more episodes all about our amazing technical staff. Bye.